All right, everyone. See you on a afternoon for Voice of College Football. Time for the college football hypothetical discussion. You have probably caught videos that we posted earlier this week where we broke down the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12 conference performance against the Power 5. Here we have hypothetical matchups that we can talk about and discuss between the Power 5s. So we have created a graphic here where I have matched up, seeded all the conferences first and foremost. And if you've seen the videos, you have seen that I have seeded all the conferences, not based on my opinion. Those seedings are based on the actual standings. And then I matched up, in this instance, matched up the hypothetical seedings of every conference against every other conference. So it's just a fun little exercise, and we will get your involvement. I've left the link in the live stream, so please jump on board and we'll talk it up here at the Voice of College Football, and really anything on your mind concerning college football. It doesn't have to be these hypothetical matchups for 2022 or 2023, whichever angle you would like to take. And again, as you see the matchup scroll by, this is the ACC against everybody. It's the Big 10 against everybody, the Big 12, all the various matchups between the conferences. The only issue that we have, of course, is that we've got 3 conferences with 14 teams, and we've got a conference with 12, and we've got a conference with 10. Therefore, we've got to take some teams out, and I tried to do that fairly and equitably when I matched up, for example, the Big 10 and the Pac-12, and had to knock 2 teams out of the Pac-12. So there it is. And currently is scrolling the ACC versus the SEC. And we currently see the bottom of the ACC taking on the bottom of the SEC. Miami, Missouri, I'd give that one to Missouri. Auburn over Boston College, Texas A&M, Virginia. Could be a toss-up there. Virginia Tech, Vandy, some really lousy football teams and football games probably between those teams. I also like to look at it this way. Instead of trying to determine who would win the game, because most of these matchups are 50-50, 60-40 kind of matchups. It's more about who would win 10 games. What would the split between the two teams be if they played 10 times? Here's the next round. It's the Big 12 against the Pac-12. Kansas State against Utah, TCU and USC. Of course, I think much of what we have to think about TCU has been obliterated in the last week since they took on Georgia. that has probably tainted most of our evaluations of TCU. Texas Washington, they actually played in a bowl game. Washington won by a touchdown in the Alamo Bowl. So that one worked out with the Big 12 and the Pac 12. The bowl play serving its purpose. Texas Tech, Oregon State, good little matchup right there. Texas Tech won its bowl game against Ole Miss, and Oregon State blasted Florida. There you see the bottom of the Big 12 taking on the Pac 12, top to bottom. There you see some of the depth of the Pac 12, I think, showing up with UCLA in the sixth position. We had to knock out two teams out of the Pac 12, of course, to take on the Big 12 with only 10 teams. And only two teams missed postseason play out of the Big 12, and that was West Virginia and Iowa State. And of course, Colorado always gets a matchup at the bottom because they are the worst team in the Power Five. So Iowa State would have a significant edge over Colorado, you would think, in a matchup there. Here we go with the Big 12 in the Big 10. Kansas State against Michigan. Well, before we assume that Michigan wins that game, of course, Michigan lost to TCU. TCU, Ohio State, entertaining ball game, and we came within one field goal of a national championship game between those two. Texas, Penn State, I really like that matchup. I think Penn State's better than Texas. They probably win 7 or 8 out of 10. Texas Tech, Purdue is a decent matchup. Oklahoma State and Iowa. I like Iowa quite a bit there. Appreciate everybody being in the chat. We got Paxton on board and Michael Parks and One Scoop John, B2B Iser. Connor Johnson's here. Good to see him as well. John, good to see you. John DeLon and Rowan showing up today. We've got the bottom of the Big 12 taking on the bottom of the Big 10. Baylor, Minnesota is a pretty good matchup. Oklahoma, Maryland, a lot of good matchups here. Kansas and Michigan State. Those decent ball games, and then the bottom two are pretty ugly affairs with West Virginia against Indiana and Iowa State against Rutgers. Again, I think the Big 12 bottom would do pretty well. Nice to see you, Connor. Michael's on board as well. I am doing just fine, besides my voice being a bit shattered. Other than that, I am doing just fine. Big 12 against the SEC. Well, we did get a chance to see Kansas State take on Alabama. That was ugly. TCU, Tennessee, Texas, LSU could be a good matchup. Texas Tech against Alabama. That seems to be a bit guided. With Alabama in the fourth position from a seeding standpoint, they take on the likes of Texas Tech and Purdue and I believe Pitt out of the ACC. So it seems like a complete runaway for the SEC there. Oklahoma State taking on Mississippi State. Could be a decent matchup. I like the Bulldogs in that one. Bottom of the Big 12 against the SEC. And again, with 14 teams against 10, you got to knock out 4 teams, unfortunately. So I knocked out the middle of the SEC. So you drop down to Florida as the 10 seed in the SEC, taking on Baylor, Oklahoma, Missouri. And we're going to see that matchup very soon here in the next 2 years when Oklahoma joins the SEC. I believe those two are going to be reunited. That's another content angle I'm going to take in future days here. We're going to run down the possible scheduling formats that are going to go forth in the Big 10 with USC and UCLA, and in the SEC with Oklahoma and Texas on board, and what those models could look like, because they could look something similar to what we see coming up this season in the ACC with a 3-5 model. Pac-12 against the SEC, Utah and Georgia. Pretty much anybody's going to take it on the chin against Georgia. So that doesn't look too pretty for the Pac-12. USC and Tennessee could be a heck of a game. Washington, LSU, heck of a game. Oregon State, Alabama, not so much. Sorry, Connor. Had to put your Beavers up against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Connor saying Oregon State probably the only 4 seed to put up a fight against Bama for about a half. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know that they're the strongest 4 seed. We could match that up. We will look at that. Of course, Oregon, Mississippi State, pretty good matchup there. I like that game. I like UCLA and Ole Miss. Washington State against Kentucky, and this is where the SEC takes over. You got to think Kentucky would take care of Washington State, and Arkansas certainly a much better football team than Arizona. Excuse me. And at the bottom of the Pac-12 against the bottom of the SEC, we've got Cal taking on Mizzou, Arizona State, Auburn, Stanford, Texas A&M, Colorado, Vandy. You see the real weakness of the Pac-12 as we get near the bottom. Those teams are awful, and the teams on the SEC side are not awful. They're not good, but they're capable. DeRio likes the SEC to go undefeated against the Pac-12. Well, I think the Pac-12's real chance there would be some of those lower top tier matchups. That would be the shot for the Pac-12 to make some hay against the SEC. Now we got the Pac-12 against the Big Ten. Utah against Michigan. You got to think Michigan's a much better football team than Utah. Ohio State, USC. That would be entertaining. And of course, the name brand matchup is about as good as possible. Washington, Penn State. Got to think Penn State wins that game, although the Huskies had a nice season. Oregon State, Purdue. There you go, Connor. You've got you and Michael can go at it. Oregon State against Purdue. I got to think the Beavers are a better team slightly, not by a whole lot. Then we've got the rest of the Big Ten against the Pac-12. Oregon, Illinois, entertaining game there. UCLA, Iowa. I favor Oregon and I favor Iowa. Washington State, Maryland. I tend to favor the Big Ten in these next two matchups because, again, the Pac-12 just drops off a cliff after the top 6 or 7 teams. And Maryland and Wisconsin. The Big Ten is completely different in that way than the Pac-12 this season. You go after Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State in the Big Ten, you go from 4 to 10 or 11. It's basically the same team, the same quality. As opposed to the Pac-12, it drops off a cliff after Oregon State, Oregon, Washington State, those teams. Bottom of the Big Ten, Wisconsin's a much better team than Cal. And then the garbage at the bottom, who knows? Arizona State, Indiana, Stanford, Rutgers. Actually, this could be the one game that Colorado could win against Northwestern. That's not a gimme. We think that Colorado's going to lose all these games. Well, they could beat Northwestern. That's more than possible. We are dropping the link back in the chat if you guys want to talk about this or anything else involving college football. Of course, Big Ten against the SEC. I believe this is our last of the matchups. Michigan, Georgia, sorry. Michigan, Ohio State, Tennessee, heck of a game there. Penn State, LSU, heck of a game. Purdue and Alabama. And again, this is where Alabama at the 4th position really shows up against everybody and would not be a fair fight. And then we move through the rest of the Big Ten against the SEC. And the fortunate thing here is we've got 14 teams in each league. Therefore, we can play everyone. Illinois, Mississippi State. Well, they played. They played in the ReliaQuest Bowl, and that game went down to the last play of the game, and Mississippi State pulled it out. Iowa, South Carolina, heck of a game there. I like that one. Minnesota, Ole Miss. Those are all really good matchups there. Maryland, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Arkansas. I think these are all flips of the coin. One Scoop John says Georgia would beat Michigan. Ohio State, Tennessee would be a toss-up. Penn State probably edges LSU. Bama would smoke Purdue. The Pizza Woman says the Big Ten can't beat the SEC to save our lives. Well, there was one matchup, Kentucky and Iowa. So the Big Ten lost, 3 of 4? I believe with Ohio State, Georgia, and Illinois, Mississippi State, and Purdue, LSU. Yes, the SEC with 3 out of 4. Michigan State, Florida, Nebraska, Mizzou, Indiana, Auburn, Rutgers, Texas A&M, Northwestern, Vandy. Got to favor the SEC slightly. I don't think it's a landslide. I don't think it's Um, not up for debate. I could see Michigan State beating Florida. I could see Nebraska over Mizzou. But generally, I like the SEC winning 3 or 4 out of those 5 matchups. And there we have it. And we will take it back from the top. Elsewhere in college football, we had a situation here in the last few days where Stanford offensive tackle Walter Rouse. Did you see this? Where he initially committed to Nebraska. He initially committed to Nebraska, and for some reason that's not scrolling again. And then he changed his commitment. So this may end up annoying me even more so than high school football players making a commitment, and need to have the word commitment defined for them. Commitment, but made a commitment and switched the commitment like a day later. And so you got to think NIL came through for Oklahoma, and they have signed Walter Rouse. For some reason, that's not playing now. Okay, here we go. From the top. From the top. LFG, appreciate you hitting the like button. Thank you so much for that. I know there's an NFL playoff game going on right now. I'm recording it just in case I want to catch up to it a little bit later. I think nobody's giving Miami a chance with what? Excuse me, a third string quarterback, Skyler Howard of Kansas State, taking on the Bills. Just released a coaches segment. If you guys have any feedback on that, released a coaches segment where we rated all the first year head coaches. The real MVP, you should like that one. We went with all the first year head coaches, and then later today, or maybe because of the live stream right now and the live stream that we've got tonight, I believe scheduled, College Football After Dark at 10:45 Eastern Time, we will post the next in the series where I rank and evaluate the new hire head coaches. I believe that's going to come out tomorrow morning. We have all sorts of controversy and speculation revolving around one Jaden Rashada, who had committed to Florida, the quarterback out of California. And I know Miami fans are still hopeful that he's going to change his mind and go to the U. And we've also got this number one cornerback, Cormani McLean, who had committed, I believe, to Miami, and now his commitment's in question as the top cornerback in the country. So just tell me when it's all over. Just tell me who lands where in December. This is why I hate recruiting. This is why I don't follow it. Although we do supply a ton of recruiting information and insight here at the Voice of College Football, and especially on our team channels, because we are committed to college football and covering the sport. Therefore, recruiting is the lifeblood of the sport. But for me personally, covering it, no. I will always bring in experts to do that work. All right, we've got our first caller on the line. We got Cadillac showing up. Cadillac, how you doing?
I'm good, Mark. How are you, bud?
I am doing just fine. What's going on today?
Oh, nothing. Checking out your content here. I like what I'm saying. It's pretty neat to look at it like this. I had a question about Illinois. Are they on the up and up? A program I never pay attention to, but I think Bielema is building something slowly there. What do you think?
I would think. Are you able to cut down the audio in the back?
Yes, 1 second.
Yeah, I'm just hearing myself.
All right, probably this phone. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Is that any better?
Hello, hello. I can
Is that
still
any better?
hear myself.
Oh,
Actually,
you want me to try again? I don't know. I'm on the stream. Right? It's the first time it's happened to me. So, but can you hear yourself? I'm fine on this end.
yeah, we just have an echo. And actually, that could be my issue. For some reason, we've got two other, I don't know why there are two other windows open on the stream. So I'm sure this is mighty annoying to everyone like it is to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
You want me to just try back?
yeah, you could. Again, it could be my issue because this is never an issue, but for some reason there are two other windows backstage that have
Oh,
me in them. I don't know how to get rid of that.
all
Do we have
right.
any
Well,
StreamYard savvy people out there that can help me out? I don't know why there are two other windows backstage with me. Huh. That is very odd. I don't know how to get rid of them.
is it still happening?
Hello, hello. Yeah. Yeah,
All
if
right.
you want
Well,
to
look.
click out and come right back in, we'll give it a shot because I don't know if it's
All right.
you or it's me.
All right.
Thanks,
But
man.
I'll give you. We'll see. How about?
Yeah, for some reason there are two windows open and they can't be closed. Yeah, see, there it is. Huh. We not get rid of that. All right. Well, if anybody else wants, no, that is my issue. Okay, I'm clicking out and coming right back in. Okay. We'll see if anyone's here. Well, I guess we've got everyone back. I guess that cleared up the issue. So my apologies for that. That was totally my fault. So Cadillac, hopefully he calls back. And we will find our video file again. There we go. And yes, we've hit the link back in the chat as well. Ben, good to see you. LFG, Joey's here. Joey is here. Joey and I are putting together a series of live streams that's going to come your way this week, we hope. We will have to figure that out. But in the coming week, we're going to go through all the Power 5 conferences, and we're going to do blowout live streams where we review each conference. We have an ACC night, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, Pac-12, go through each one with all sorts of your favorite guests. LFG, I'm rooting for Jaden Rashad outside ball in life and all the way around. I don't trust how Mario recently handled quarterbacks. Hope Mario proves me wrong. Well, Anthony Brown is certainly not a good indicator because he's actually getting some playing time in the NFL, and he didn't look the part at Oregon, and I thought he was a much better quarterback at Boston College with less weapons than he was at Oregon. Yeah. Manny, or I do that just like a lot of Miami people that mix up Manny Diaz comes out of our mouth at the same time as Mario Cristobal, but Cristobal had a lousy season. I just don't know how that can really be excused until he proves otherwise. That I understand he's destroying the program. He's tearing it down, I should say. He's tearing down the program and going to build it back up. But I just don't know how you can't, with that roster, just perform better while you are rebuilding, why you can't field a decent football team. LFG was referring to Justin Herbert. Yes, Justin Herbert. Yeah, I understand that you were referring to Justin Herbert. I threw out Anthony Brown as well. Yeah, Justin Herbert was obviously the NFL scouts were not fooled. They knew how good he was, but he didn't look the part at Oregon. I never really watched him and thought, this guy's something special. Well, he did turn out to be something special. Rowan says Brett Bielema is a good coach, just not for the SEC. Don't necessarily know if that's true. I get your point. He didn't succeed in the SEC, but he certainly had that Arkansas program moving in the right direction before he had one bad season and he got fired after one bad season. I don't necessarily agree with, nor did I understand why he was fired, except that they would not tolerate one 4-8 season. But before that, he had increased his win total every year in the SEC. And now we see where Sam Pittman just took a step back this past season after having what looked to be a breakout season in 2021. Yes, Joey, since this is Sunday, we will have to get together on this one because I don't know who we've got on board for Monday night to do the ACC, but we'll get together on this one and figure it out, and we will announce a schedule out to everyone in terms of what we've got in store for everyone. Again, we are going to do big blowout conference shows for 2-3 hours minimum and break down all the conferences this week, most likely this week. Again, stay tuned for dates and times. There continues to be much speculation about CJ Stroud. It's odd that tomorrow, Monday, is the deadline to enter the NFL draft, and CJ Stroud has yet to do so. Unless something's come out today, I have not seen. And that has brought on much speculation because usually these last-minute decisions are made by the 3rd and 4th and 5th round guys, not by a guy that's going to be at the very top of the draft. So interesting that CJ Stroud has yet to declare for the NFL draft when he is almost assuredly going to be a top 5 pick. Why in the world would he come back to Ohio State? Well, if the NIL money is going to be good enough and Big Bumbo 22 says that CJ Stroud is coming back. Watch. And at this point, that would not surprise me because why has he waited this long? We just don't see that out of top picks. I looked up Javon Walker from last season, the Georgia defensive lineman, and his contract, he's making a little over $9 million per year. So as a quarterback at the top of the draft, and those are slotted, I don't have a full understanding of how the NFL draft has slotted salaries, but I know that that was something that the NFL instituted, about 10 or 15 years ago to avoid all these holdouts, and it's been extremely effective. Much like what the NFL does, period. It's been extremely effective. That's why they run the most popular sports entity in the country by far. But they were able to, because there was this these constant standoffs between players waiting to see what the other player and what the slots in front of them and beneath them in the NFL draft would sign for. And so you would have all these holdouts leading into July camp. And the NFL has corrected that with the slotting system. Now, exactly how that works, I don't know. But again, I did look up Javon Walker, the number 1 pick in the NFL draft last year. He makes $9.1 or $2 million. And so that's what you would think CJ Stroud would be, somewhere in that range as a guaranteed contract. John says, you can have the 2-yard slants in the NFL. I'll take college football. Yes, I believe college football has outlawed the 2-yard slant. Looks like Joey's got us all lined up here. Monday night, we go live at 8 o'clock Eastern time with our ACC show. We got Pixie and Pete on board, Traveling Fools, and then the Wholesome One. And then we got Will ND. I'm not understanding that one, Jordan. Or we've got Jordan, but Joey, why's Will? Will's a Notre Dame guy. So we may have to move Will to another day. But Joey and I will get together on these guests. All right. All right, folks, we've pretty much gone through all these hypothetical matchups. I always think that's interesting to do. In the past, I've produced a video and taken my guess, my estimation on who would win these games. And again, I think it's more valid to try to determine who would win 10 matchups, not just one, because most of them are toss-ups. Would Texas beat Penn State? Sure, they could. Penn State could beat Texas. So if it was a winner-take-all one game, just about all these matchups could be won by either team. But if you look at a 10-game scenario, then you get a better feel for who the better team is. Big Bumbo 22 is not a NFL fan either. It's quite the comeback last night by the Jacksonville Jaguars, down 27 points. All right, Joey, we may kill. We love Will. Will's our guy, but we'll have to kick him to the curb for the ACC show. This is not just whoever wants to jump on board, and he's not affiliated with an ACC team. Yes, Trevor Lawrence throws 4 interceptions in the first half, has one of the worst outings you could ever imagine in postseason play, and he comes back. And I watched the entire game, and I'm not apt to these days watch an entire NFL game, but I watched the entire game because I thought even at 27-0, I thought there's a ton of time. I am not considering this one over. Big Bumbo 22 would like Notre Dame to join the Big Ten. Yes, they should. We've certainly outlined all the reasons why Notre Dame would be a great fit for the Big Ten. That would be the best fit in college football. Notre Dame does not really belong in the ACC from a football standpoint. D. Wayne really likes Texas Tech to be a power in the Big 12. Just watch out. I predict they will go to the first expanded playoff, not winning, just second place Big 12 team. Okay, that could be. It's possible. I don't know that Texas Tech has the potential of recruiting at a level in which they're going to be able to maintain that kind of status. But as a one-year wonder like TCU this year, sure. I hear lousy things about Lubbock, Texas, just being out in the middle of nowhere. Not that there aren't good people out there, fine folks, but not necessarily a great destination for college football talent. Boise State to the Pac-12. This is another topic that we need to dive back into that we've hit hard in the past with all the expansion to the SEC and the Big Ten. Is get our buddy Tony Altimore back on here with all of his graphs and statistics and his insight way beyond the graphs and the charts and the stats and the information, is his insight into what are the best fits. From a football standpoint, I can discuss that intelligently. From a sports standpoint, athletic department, I can discuss that intelligently. But there are so many other factors from a money standpoint, and we're not talking about football money. We're talking about endowment money and culture and belief and value systems at these universities that make certain pairings that seem on the surface to be legit, to be workable, to not be, in fact, reality, and vice versa. Other fits that you would not consider to be viable connections between conferences and teams. So Boise State to the Pac-12, I know that Boise State, from a university standpoint, may not have the level of academia, may not be at that status based on academic rankings to be attractive to the likes of Cal and Stanford. We got Michigan man Jason on the line. Good to see him. Connor's looking for a matchup with Bama. I would love to see it. Hey, if Utah State can go to Tuscaloosa, why can't Oregon State? Also coming up at the Voice of College Football, we've got a couple other video presentations involving the best matchups of 2023 coming up. We're going to run through week one. We're also going to run through my top 10 non-conference matchups and also my under-the-radar best non-conference matchups. Those are coming soon, so be on the lookout for those. Colby says Slim should join the ACC show. Well, let us know who Slim is. And if he knows what he's talking about, we'll bring him on. But yeah, so Joey's done a fine job of reaching out to some top talent out there that will represent various teams. And we've got the ACC all lined up for Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. All right, everyone. We appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Nobody is interested in talking to me, but we do appreciate folks showing up. So thanks for being here. I will allow you to go watch the NFL or go read a book or paint a wall or do something. Oh, we got somebody who's taken exception here. Joe Long. Mike Elko as the number 2 new coach, horrible choice. Okay. Would love to hear why Mike Elko did not have the second best. Would love to have this conversation, Joe. So you can always call the show. We'll give you a few seconds to do it because otherwise I'm not going to hang on here. But that would be exceptional if you would like to jump on and we could have a conversation about we rated the first-year head coaches in college football. There were 13 of them, and I ranked them from 1 all the way to 13. And Mike Elko was exceptional. I don't even think, do I really need to defend that selection? You people are college football nuts, or you wouldn't be here in the middle of January. So Mike Elko was obviously a phenomenal hire for Duke, at least through one season. I don't know what he's going to do after this, but through one season, what he did at Duke is just beyond jaw-dropping. Duke won 1 game in the ACC the previous 2 seasons. Duke was 1-17 in the ACC the previous 2 seasons, and Duke did not play a bad football game this past year. They did not play a bad football game. They lost 4 one-score games to decent teams. Decent to good teams. They came within one drive of going to the ACC championship game. And they defeated a good UCF team easily. Blew them out in the second half in their bowl game. So Mike Elko and Duke, that's an astounding job that he did. And I don't know if the National Coach of the Year has been announced. I don't know if that has come out yet, but I would assume Sonny Dykes is going to win it. But that Mike Elko would be in the running. And I'm trying to think who I had number 3 on that list. I believe Kalen DeBoer, who was phenomenal at Washington, of course. It was almost like he wiped out the Jimmy Lake tenure and all the missteps by Jimmy Lake, which were near disaster, and he brought Washington back immediately to top 10 status. So Kalen DeBoer with a great job. Mike Elko, outstanding job by him. I don't have the list in front of me. I know near the bottom I had guys like Tony Elliott in particular. He was really the one guy, Tony Elliott and Mario Cristobal and Brent Venables. You got to say they did a lousy job based on the record that first season. The thing that is saving Brent Venables and Mario Cristobal right now, the thing that's saving them is recruiting. So Mario Cristobal ran a dumpster fire in his first season in Miami, but he's recruiting out of his mind. So I lifted him a spot or two. I would have put him last based on turning top 15 talent into one of the 20 or 25 worst teams in America. So I would have gone Mario Cristobal at the bottom, but he's recruiting out of his mind. Same thing with Brent Venables. He's having a heck of a transfer portal year, and also he is also, see if I can get this to roll again. Again, if you've just joined us, what you're looking at here is a rundown of hypothetical matchups between all the Power 5 conference teams. So we have lined up every conference against every conference and what the matchups would look like just based on the seedings. Not my seedings, not based on my opinion, but the seedings based on the standings. And so you're currently looking at the ACC against the Pac-12. So you got 14 teams in the ACC, so we had to knock out 2. And then all the teams, of course, in the Pac-12. Oregon, I think, would be all over Syracuse. And UCLA Louisville, that would be an interesting game. I like UCLA in that one. And then the ACC, actually, I think would have the upper hand with NC State and Washington State. I have posted the call-in link a number of times, and we will hang out for a few more minutes just to make sure if anybody wants to join us. Otherwise, we will move it along. So there's more from the ACC against the Pac-12. And there you see some really bad football teams. Some really, really bad football teams. Again, we would invite you to check out my first-year head coaches rankings. And then also tomorrow morning, we are releasing our new hires. So Deion Sanders, Luke Fickell, Matt Rule. Who else? There are 10 of them. Jeff Brom at Louisville. And others that are new to those particular schools. So we have ranked those, and that's coming out on Monday. Connor's letting us know that Stanford beat Notre Dame and Cal should have beat Notre Dame. Yeah, those were two really good showings by the Pac-12. Two really good showings by the Pac-12. The Pac-12 definitely this season got out of last place in the conference standings. Yes. Much better than the ACC. Got to put the ACC last. For much of the season, I thought that it was a debate, but the ACC finishes last at 10-18 against the other conferences. 10-18. Rowan is putting the Pac-12 above Notre Dame and Notre Dame above the ACC. Notre Dame, you could call the de facto winner of the ACC. Of course, they beat both of the division champions. Our de facto conference champions of sorts, think of it this way. Florida wins the Pac-12. They beat Utah. Tulane wins the Big 12. Tulane or Alabama, because they defeated the Big 12 champion Kansas State. You've got TCU is the winner of the Big 10. You have Notre Dame, the winner of the ACC. And then the SEC is the one that can just sit there and say, we've got bragging rights on everyone. It turned out not to be that close for the SEC. Joey's calling us here at the Voice of College Football. Joey, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, I don't know if my service is going to be very good. I don't know how you can hear me.
We can hear you. Can you hear me?
I was looking at your matchup there, I think. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, hold on a minute. I'll be right back. I'll be right back, Mark.
Joey will be right back. Not used Xer. South Carolina beat the ACC. South Carolina beat Clemson. South Carolina beat Clemson. Did they beat anyone else? No, they beat Clemson. Okay. So, yeah, I still give Notre Dame the nod as the ACC champion when they beat both of the division winners handily. How about Marcus Freeman's first year performance? Where should he rank? Oh, Cadillacs joining us. Cadillac.
All right, can you hear me now?
Blame me. That was me. I always blame the callers, not because I'm a mean guy, just because it's 99% on them, because I usually have things buttoned up and do this all the time. But yeah, we had some kind of odd, I had multiple windows open. I couldn't find them.
Right.
To shut them down. So anyway, we seem to be in good shape now.
All right, good deal, Mark. I didn't know if it was, excuse me, I didn't know if it was my end or what. I haven't had that issue before.
You coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to talk about just college football, just the generalization. What I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I mentioned it to Uncle Lou before. You know, I usually call his show, but Illinois, and I thought about that at the beginning of the year, but, Bielema, stingy defense. I don't know who's got head in that group, but in his lines of scrimmage coaching is really good. So I thought, maybe they could, be a decent program in the future. They already are, but you know what I mean? Take it to the next level. Something Illinois hasn't seen, right?
Yeah, it's been 15 years since Illinois was any good, and they weren't even really that good then. But, yeah, I think Brett Bielema is a really good head coach. I always have. And he will tell you that he's learned a lot going to the NFL for several seasons. So that's helped him. The only knock I've got on Illinois is that his first couple of recruiting classes have not been good.
Right.
But his pickups in the transfer portal have been, and they also lost their defensive coordinator to Purdue, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
And he's the guy that orchestrated they led the nation in interceptions and turnovers and were top 5 in every category.
All right. Oh, all right. That, Mark, and of course, I'm a Bama guy, and we lost our defensive coordinator to Ole Miss, but we kind of wanted that to happen.
I know.
We wouldn't have 52 to Tennessee. I mean, that's not Bama. It's like Georgia giving up 52. But they're looking at now. This is I can't confirm this, but there's rumors that they're kind of looking at the DC if he doesn't coach in the pros from Wisconsin. And, then there's Jeremy Pruitt, but he's got some baggage. So they got to go after somebody solid, which I don't think Nick will have any issue with that, but, problem getting that. But you have any idea who they may target?
Well, if they can get Jim Leonard, then forget it. You don't need to do any more interviews. That
right. But I think that's a wish list. I think they say he's hell bent on going to the pro level. That's, he hasn't been out of the league playing in, that long from what I hear. And I just know Wisconsin's defense is always stingy. They're always really at the top of the conference, at least, if not the nation. So that would be a wonderful hire. And one more name to throw out there was a co-coordinator from Georgia. He was actually an Alabama alum. So I think that's the three names. And I'm excited. I think Golden's a good coach. I just don't think I don't know. Our defense has declined. I think that's one of the reasons why we've kind of taken a small back seat. We could score with anybody, but then it got to the point they could start scoring. So, that's been the issue along with a few other things. And one last thing. You heard about that young man that passed away from Georgia on the offensive line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sad. Lou posted about that today. He just won in the championship. They say he was in a car with one of the recruiting coordinators. A terrible car accident. She didn't make it either. And, I don't know. That's sad. I didn't get the details on it, but I just didn't know if you had heard about that.
Yeah, I just saw the post on ESPN.
Yeah, that's horrible to hear. Kid didn't get out the door good. Probably had an NFL career, knowing Georgia, but I don't know. Other than that, I'm glad the show's going for you. As a Bama guy, I want to remind you, all the teams you've matched them up with, it's not really close, is it?
No.
That's just, I can't believe they shot themselves in the foot. I know I was one of the guys on the bandwagon saying they should have made the playoff, but in all actuality, as time goes by, no, we should have got in by winning. So no matter, we could be an NFL team, but if you stick them in the college rank and they lost 2 games, they're left out, right? So
yeah,
I'm coming back down to earth.
For as much as a lot of people loved seeing Alabama out of the playoff, I think it would have been fascinating to see them in there as the 4th team. But that's
I think they looked at. I think they looked at that and said, well, God, the 2-loss thing was really, because if they allowed it once and then, if Alabama hadn't won it all, they would have been, well, now that opens the door to all kind of things. Now every team's going to bitch and complain if they have 2 losses. Well, Alabama got in last year. They just didn't want to open that can of worms, I don't think. And even though this was an exception, I think Alabama has some terrible, the penalties for them this year is what really kept them out of the playoffs. If you look at their close games, they were penalty plagued, and it was just something that they need to grow from. And I'm hoping they get that straightened out. A lot of it was on the defensive end with pass interferences and offside, just coaching errors. But hopefully that'll get corrected, and all will be well in that end. And I don't know, Mark. I look forward to next year. I like the fact that we've been put in check after all this time. Georgia is at the top, and it makes, to me, I don't know, personally, it makes me more excited to look forward to the next year. Because in all honesty, Alabama fans have been like, even if we didn't win the national title, we were considered the top dynasty, the top tier. What happened? They didn't win it all. You get complacent. That's what Nick preaches about. And I hope Georgia doesn't fall into that. Their fans are now like, yeah, 2 back to back. We've dethroned Alabama. We are the cream of the crop. And they don't understand next year is a whole nother year. You know what I mean? It's gonna be wild, but they're getting a taste of success. Just like all these other programs. But once you get there, Mark, it's hard to stay.
Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately for Kirby Smart, it doesn't matter what the fans think or how competitive they are.
I
It
don't
only
know.
matters
Yeah,
what the
us
people in
fans,
that building think.
we think it's us out there on the field. That's what I like to hear. We, and it's not actually technically us, But yeah, I mean, I had a few things. I mean, it was fun to unwind and look at it that way. And I don't know. Like I said, we should get 2 new coordinators because Bill O'Brien is rumored to take an NFL job. They haven't no news on renewing his contract. So
Yeah.
this is a start fresh. And hopefully what they're saying, Pollock opened up he opened up a can by calling old Nick out. Well, he didn't technically talk to Nick Saban, but that's viral, of course. Nick just kind of looked down and looks, like, whatever. But I think, like Bob Stoops says, it's going to encourage Nick Saban. It's going to give him another 10 years because he has it in him. I don't know. Nick Saban, he still does warm-ups there with the players every day. He gets down, he does stretches and pushes whatever, So guy's in great shape, and he loves college football. So he's not close to retiring, I don't believe.
No.
And I mean, it shows on the practice footage. He actually does his stretches with his legs. It's fun. It's fun to watch.
That's awesome.
But I guess that's it, Mark. I'll hang out, whatever. But I don't know. It's good luck to everything and the off season. I know you got shows lined up. I look forward to watching them too. You along with Lou. I like to cut up with him. We get heated a lot of times because he's a Georgia guy, through and through.
Yes,
and
he is.
And I've picked at him, when they would come so close to beating us. Now he's really letting me have it here lately. So you know how he is about Georgia. I can't blame him. If I had the same situation going on, I'd be just like him, I guess. But I'll get off here, man. I'll let you get to some calls.
Thanks, Cadillac. Appreciate
and a
you
roll
being here,
time.
man.
All right, bud. Bye-bye.
It's our guy Cadillac talking up the Tide and all these one-sided matchups that you see. Alabama is the 4 seed in the SEC. Before we get to our next caller, Cadillac had brought up, I did not dig into this to see what happened. Georgia offensive lineman Devin Willock, recruiting staffer, die in car crash. I'm reading this off of ESPN. Georgia football player Devin Willock and a recruiting staff member were killed in a car wreck in Athens early Sunday morning, the university confirmed in a statement. Redshirt sophomore from New Milford, New Jersey, started 2 games on the offensive line this past season. Recruiting staff member Chandler LaCroix was also killed. The entire Georgia family is devastated by the tragic loss of football student athlete Devin Willock and football staff member Chandler LaCroix. 2 other members of the football program were injured in the accident. They are both in stable condition, and we will continue to monitor their status with medical personnel. In a statement, Athens Clark County Police reported the single vehicle accident occurred around 2:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. Police said the initial investigation indicated that a 2021 Ford Expedition left the road in the outside lane of Barnett Shoals Road and struck 2 power poles and several trees. Police said Willock died at the scene. He was 20. LaCroix, who was driving, was transported to a local hospital by ambulance and died as a result of her injuries. 21-year-old male passenger sustained minor injuries, and a 26-year-old female passenger sustained serious injuries. Warren McClendon, the offensive lineman, was also involved in the crash and in stable condition. McClendon announced on Saturday that he is entering the NFL draft. Sad news out of Athens concerning Georgia football and 20-year-old offensive lineman Devin Willock and a recruiting staffer, and then also Warren McClendon, and he's in stable condition. All right, let's get back to the phone lines. We got Joey on the line.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I had to change my internet over. Hope you can hear me better now.
Gotcha.
Good deal. Hey, I like some of these matchups you have on the screen. Some of these matchups look really interesting.
Yeah, they do.
I was looking at the Big 12 versus the SEC, especially. I believe the SEC would go 6 out of 10 of those. They would win 6 out of 10 of those.
Okay. 6-4 against the Big 12.
Yeah, I think so. Your top 5 would all lose out of the Big 12, and then your bottom 5. I think West Virginia would lose to Texas A&M with the matchup you had. I think West Virginia would lose that game, but I think the other 4 games would be won by the Big 12. So I was interested in that. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about coaching hires this year? In your opinion, what's the best coaching hire that you've seen so far?
Well, I actually have a video coming out. It's already been produced, and so I just have to release it, and I believe I'll do that in the morning. So we've got 10 that have been hired in the Power 5. And I will say that Deion Sanders would be the biggest wild card, boom or bust, you would think, out of the 10. But yeah, I ranked the 10, and that's coming out in the morning.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, how good Matt Rule can be. Again, he's done well in college football, obviously in the past. But I think the best coaching hire this year overall is not necessarily a head coach. I think it's when Clemson hired Garrett Riley. I think that's the best coaching hire of the year. They needed an offensive coordinator.
I think a lot of people would agree with you that Clemson's needed some imagination, innovation in its offense, and he looks like he would be the guy.
Yeah, I mean he's myself. I was going to do a video about that myself about that's good. And I think that Gurley, and that's not head coach. Now, if we're talking just head coaching, then I think probably Luke Fickell would probably be the best hire.
Yeah, I think he's both the biggest home run and the safest hire, both at the same time.
Yeah. Right.
Joey, we're starting to lose you here.
I'm gonna let you get to some of the callers anyway, man, because I am. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Thanks, Joey. Appreciate you. Our guy Joey Foster, West Virginia. We'll see their matchups as the next to last seed in the Big 12. I think we've got them going up against, like Joey said, Texas A&M. I believe Rutgers. And we were going to hit Dr. C. Dr. C was on the line, but he has dropped off, unfortunately. So we do appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. And again, I just wanted to serve up these matchups as hypotheticals. And I usually do this in video form, but I thought we would do a live stream to get everybody's feedback on what it would look like to match up all the various conferences based on the seedings of the teams. There you see the ACC and the Big 12. Clemson against Kansas State. What do you think of that matchup? North Carolina, TCU. And I think this really shows how weak the ACC is. Florida State is an up-and-coming team, up-and-coming program. So aside from Florida State, then, once you get down to Syracuse. So we had to lose 2 teams out of the ACC to take on the Big 12. So Syracuse is not the 5 seed. They're actually the 6 seed. Pitt is the 5 seed. And that's how that runs down. Actually, Pitt's the 4, Duke's the 5 out of the ACC. But there's the rest of the ACC against the Big 12. West Virginia against Miami. That was a bowl game about 6 years ago. All right, everyone. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We will sign off and let you get to your weekend. And again, we will release our new hire coaches rankings coming up on Monday. And don't forget, College Football After Dark is tonight at 10:45 Eastern Time. So join the guys, One Scoop John, Ben, and others, Jordan, all the guys on the line coming up tonight at 10:45 Eastern Time on College Football After Dark right here at the Voice of College Football.